Hello, everyone. Welcome. Hi, Yasmin. Thanks again for doing this. Very excited for us to get going. I know Janelle is here. She's going to do our introduction. Janelle, are you giving folks a few more minutes? I see people coming into the room.
Yes, I see people jumping on, but I just want to give everyone just a few more minutes to join us.
We want to be very respectful of time. So you're going to give them 2 more minutes so we can start 5:35 on the dot, right?
Right, that's right.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you.
No problem. All right. So good evening again, everyone. My name is Janelle Brown, and I'm the administrative manager here at AIM Online Academy. So first, I just want to say thank you to everyone for joining. I'm so happy to see you all here as we launch our Admission Matters webinar series. And of course, there's no better way to kick things off than to discuss the latest updates and insights regarding studying in Canada. So as you may know, the Canadian government recently imposed new limits on study permits being granted. So for international students looking to study in Canada, understanding the implications is extremely important. And here today to help shed some light on what this means is our guest speaker, Yasmin Chong. Yasmin brings a wealth of experience and expertise to our webinar tonight as a Senior Business Development Officer at the High Commission of Canada. Yasmin is not only an accomplished business development practitioner, but also a trailblazer in implementing trade development programs, both locally here in Jamaica and on behalf of Global Affairs Canada. Her achievements span across various sectors, including agriculture, transportation, clean tech, and education. Yasmin is a proud graduate of Florida International University, where she earned her degree in international relations and economics with honors. And she also holds a master's degree in public administration from the University of Florida. Beyond her professional endeavors, Yasmin is also deeply engaged in her community and holds a passion for sewing, music, reading, and politics. It's truly an honor to have her join us here tonight to shed some light on the recent developments concerning study permits and admissions in Canada. And so, without further ado, please join me in extending a warm virtual welcome to Yasmin Chong. Yasmin, thank you so much for being here with us this evening.
Thank you so much, Janelle. Thank you so much, Nicole. And thank you to everyone that has joined this session this evening. I know that everyone is a bit concerned about some of recent announcements that we've heard from the government of Canada, but I'm here to allay your fears, hopefully, and to say to you, it's business as usual. It's just that we are now going to conduct that business in a slightly different fashion. I want to start by, I'm going to give a very short preamble to why we are where we are today. And then I'm going to just go through some of those frequently asked questions that we have been getting and that we have had to respond to. And then I'm going to open up, hopefully, for any other questions or any clarifications that you might need or want based on what I present this afternoon. So if you don't mind, let me just read a preamble from the Canadian Minister of Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship. And on January 22nd, Minister Mark Miller announced that the government of Canada will set an intake cap on international student permit applications. International students enrich the communities of Canada and are a critical part of the social, cultural, and economic fabric. And in recent years, though, the integrity of the international student system has been somewhat compromised and somewhat threatened. And some institutions have significantly increased their intakes to drive revenues, and more students have been arriving in Canada without the proper support they need to succeed. Rapid increases in the number of international students arriving in Canada also put pressure on housing, healthcare, and other services, which are guaranteed to all, including international students. As we work to better protect international students from bad actors and support sustainable population growth in Canada, the government is moving towards measures to stabilize the number of international students in Canada. Now that intake cap that has been set is going to be enforced for 2 years with a review after the first year, which the first year being 2024. So for 2024, it is expected that approximately 360,000 permits will be issued, which is really a decrease of about 35%. So in the spirit of fairness, what the government of Canada has decided to do is to have the individual provinces and territories issue them caps, weighted primarily by population. And we believe that this will result in a significant decrease in provinces where the international student population has seen the most unsustainable growth. So study permit renewals will not be impacted. Let me repeat that. Study permit renewals will not be impacted. So if you have friends or family that are already in Canada on study permits, those will not have any problems either being renewed or extended. Those pursuing master's and doctoral degrees and elementary and secondary education are not included in the cap. So what we're basically talking about is the undergraduate level at the tertiary institutions. Also, current study permit holders will not be affected by it. So what we've done is allocated a portion of the cap to each province and territory, who will then distribute the allocation among their institutions. And remember, these institutions have to be what we are now referring to them as designated learning institutions, which means that they have been vetted and they are now eligible to accept international students. And more importantly, not all designated learning institutions will now be able to issue postgraduate work permits. And as we get later down in these few comments that I have to make, you'll understand that for the sake of the AIM family, you will not have any issues with this new cap. All right. So each province has already received their allocation, and their allocation will be, it is their responsibility, to provide their designated learning institutions, those that are able to offer postgraduate work permits. And that's an important part of studying in Canada. The institutions, the tertiary institutions, the colleges and the universities will now be responsible to allocate their portion of the cap for their respective provinces. All right. It is expected that we are going to issue about 360,000 student permits and visas for 2024. And at the start of 2025, it's going to be looked at, and then it could be increased, as well as it may just remain at the 360,000. So where are we today? The provinces have already received their application, their allocation of the cap. And so it is now up to them to redistribute those among the universities and the colleges. And they're expected to complete that exercise by March 31, 2024, sorry. So in another week or so, every college and university in Canada should have what they're calling their attestation letters. What is the attestation letter? It is one that is going to be issued along with your approval from the university, and which you will also submit as part of your study visa application to IRCC. So let me just repeat that. In addition to all the documents that you have to provide IRCC with, you are now going to add this attestation letter, which you will receive from the university you intend to attend. All right. They will issue that attestation letter and you submit it with your application. IRCC has indicated that they will not review an application unless that attestation letter is included in the student's application. So just remember that there's just one additional document that you will have to include. Once you have submitted and you are approved, things remain the same. You will be eligible for a postgraduate work permit at the end of your study. You will still be able to work during your full-time course of study. Nothing else will change except that you have this additional document that you have to receive before you can apply for your visa. So I think overall that is what this new approach entails. I want to just go over a few minor details before we start taking the questions. So that attestation letter, persons have asked, what is this attestation letter? What it really is saying that you are included in the allocation that has been given to the institution of choice. So, and that attestation letter will accompany, as I said before, your student visa application. So another important point that IRCC has asked me to emphasize is that students whose applications were received before 8:30 a.m. on January 22nd, 2024, you do not need an attestation letter. So they will go ahead and they will process your applications, and you will be okay for travel to Canada. So remember, if you submitted before January 22nd, 2024 at 8:30 a.m. in that morning, you do not need to worry about the attestation letter. But now, who needs an attestation letter? Well, most post-secondary student applications. So next, most non-degree granting graduate programs. For example, certificate programs or graduate diplomas. Anyone else not included in those two categories that I mentioned. So those are who need an application, an attestation letter, a provincial attestation letter. Who does not need one? Primary and secondary school students, master's or doctoral degree students, visiting or exchange students, because we have a very active exchange program through Global Affairs Canada. And we just want to allay the fears of those students that you do not need an attestation letter. Your stay in Canada is short-term, and as such, you are not included in the cap. In Canada, study permit and work permit holders, meaning if you are already in Canada on a student visa, you do not need an attestation letter. And if you are there with family members, they do not need an attestation letter. And if you are in Canada and your visa has expired and you are renewing it, you do not need an attestation letter. The attestation letter only applies to new applications as of January 22nd of this year. I know that since this has come into force, we have been asked about the postgraduate work permit. And everything will remain the same, but we just wanted to say that the graduate programs and the master's degree programs, in recognition that graduates of master's degree granting programs are excellent candidates to succeed in Canada's labor market, a change has been made to the length of the postgraduate work permit. So again, nothing has changed with respect to the issuing of work permits upon completion of your course of study. Only that with graduate and doctoral students, they will now have their work permits extended to meet the required Canadian work experience. And for those who wish to remain in Canada after their work permit has expired, this new extension of your work permit period will allow you to apply for your permanent residence if you so desire. As of February 15 of this year, a longer 3-year postgraduate work permit will be available to those who are graduating from a master's degree program that is less than 2 years, but who will still meet the postgraduate work eligibility criteria. So let me repeat that. As of January 15, 2024, a longer 3-year postgraduate work permit will be available to those who are graduating from a master's degree program that is less than 2 years. All right? And that will allow you to meet all the requirements for your postgraduate criteria for the postgraduate work permit. The length of postgraduate work permits for programs other than master's degrees will continue to align with the length of the study program to a maximum of 3 years. So again, those of you who are just going into university, you will be guaranteed, you will still be guaranteed a postgraduate work permit for 3 years at the end of your study. Now, who is eligible for a longer postgraduate work permit? Graduates of programs that are at least 2 years in length at a designated learning institution. And not only does it have to be a designated learning institution, it also has to be a designated learning institution that is eligible to issue postgraduate work permits. Just to clarify, not because you are a designated learning institution means that you can issue a work permit. So under this new arrangement, graduates of programs that are at least 2 years in length at postgraduate work permit eligible designated learning institutions, you will now be eligible for a 3-year postgraduate work permit, as are graduates of a master's degree less than 2 years in length. Now, here's a tricky part. There are some provinces that have public colleges or that allow public colleges to license their curriculum to be delivered by an affiliated private college. In these cases, students physically attend the private college, but their degrees or their certificates or diploma is issued by the private college, but it is in the name of the public institution. So over the years, concerns have been raised with regard to the quality of education provided by these institutions, not your designated learning institutions that are accredited and eligible for postgraduate work permits, not your universities who are in that category. These are like those referred to as institutes. Concerns have been raised about the quality of education provided by these institutions, as well as the lack of support for sufficient student support at these institutions. And there is also, we discovered, a lack of oversight into program quality and student services at these institutions. So as such, IRCC has made a change to restrict postgraduate work permits for these institutions. Again, I don't think it applies to many of our Jamaican students, especially those of you coming out of the secondary level. But it is important that we say this, because this is a significant change in the new paradigm. So they will no longer be eligible to issue postgraduate work permits. And there will be a reduction in the number of students enrolled in those institutions. And okay, so let me just move on to changes to open work permit eligibility for spouses. Don't think it is meant for this audience, but I'm going to say it nonetheless. You may have family members or you may have friends who may be in this position. So Eligibility for open work permits for the spouses and common law partners of international students will be updated. And what has happened is basically eligibility is now limited to the spouses and common law partners of students in the graduate and professional degree granting programs only. So before, at the undergraduate level, one could actually take their family, including spouse, children. That is no longer at the undergraduate level. Only open work permits will only now be issued to spouses of students at the graduate level, which means the master's and doctorate. These changes are now in effect. So spouses and common law partners of international students seeking to extend their existing work permit will continue to be eligible under this stream. All right. So those that are already in Canada, already in their programs, their family, if they have their families with them, then they will remain eligible. But no new students going in at the master's or graduate level. Only those levels will now be able to obtain work permits for their families. All right. And just to be clear, who will not be eligible? The spouses and common law partners of international students in other levels of study, including undergraduate and college programs. They will no longer be eligible for an open work permit unless they already hold an open work permit under this stream. All right, I'm going to stop there now because I think most, if not all, of the concerns that we have certainly received, I have addressed here. So, Janelle, I don't know if we want to open it up now for questions.
Yes, definitely. So if you have any questions about what Ms. Chong has said, please feel free to drop them in the chat. You can use the Q&A section as well. I see somebody raise their hand, Keisha Scarlett, so I'm just going to allow Keisha to ask her question. So you can go ahead, Keisha.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, Ms. Chong. I've been listening to your presentation, and I'm still at work, so it's kind of noisy sometimes. I'm not sure if you mentioned, if you would have mentioned anything about the question I'm about to ask. Now, I've learned that under this new program or addition to our changes, whatever we want to call it, there is gonna be also a change in cost. So let's say for an international student who would want to go to Canada to study, let's say for Jamaica, it would have taken in the past, it would have taken like $2 million then for one person or so. I'm hearing that it will now be doubled. Is that so?
I'm not aware of that. What I am aware of, and I'm being just very open and upfront, is that whereas up until January of this year, and let me just say first and foremost, this is not an IRCC issue. It's not a global affairs issue. But I'm going to try to explain to you, Keisha, what it is. And it's a misunderstanding, I believe. What it is that the institutions, the colleges and the universities, the designated learning institutions are now apparently, I've heard from a few, and that's why I'm saying apparently, are now going to require, you know, when they send you their approval and their acceptance, your acceptance letter, and you apply for your visa, and then you need to make a deposit, whether it is on tuition or on your residence, housing, if you are having it on campus, or any of the other facilities that they offer. What they are intimating is that they may require a higher deposit. But it's not that fees are going to be increased. It's not that housing is going to be, the cost of housing is going to be increased. It's just that they may ask for a increased amount as your deposit. Because remember, I think part of the reason they are thinking about doing that is because with a finite amount of attestation letters to each institution, they want to ensure that the students who receive these attestation letters are indeed serious about attending their institution. Now, what I've also heard, and because I asked a number of them that I've spoken with, I've asked them, so what if you issue that attestation letter and the student decides that, well, a number of things can happen. First, the student decides that they are gonna, they're not gonna attend your institution. They're gonna either go to another one or just not go to Canada. Is it refundable? And the answer I've gotten is yes, it is fully refundable. There's also another scenario where you issue an attestation letter, you meaning the college or the university, you issue an attestation letter to a student, they make their application to IRCC, but it is not approved. Again, I asked, what happens in that instance? And I was told that the student will be fully refunded in those instances. All right, so I am not sure about any idea or any move to increase tuition or other costs. What I have been advised of is that they may now require a higher level of deposit from the prospective students.
Okay, thank you so much. Question answered.
Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Keisha. So we're going to take some questions from our Q&A section. Somebody asked, what can I do to raise my chances of getting admitted?
Getting admitted to
University.
To the university. Well, I'm not going to be honest, I won't be able to answer that question. I think that question is better directed at the administrations at the various colleges and universities.
I completely agree, Yasmin. I could take a stab at it. Just because from a college counseling perspective, remember the most important thing when applying to Canada will be your grades and whether you have the subjects for the prerequisite areas you want to study in. I've been doing a tour of various high schools throughout Jamaica. I was at Glenmuir today, for example, and what a lot of people don't realize are what prerequisite CAPE subjects, for example, will be needed for each degree. So you just want to make sure, for example, you want to study business, you need CAPE math. You want to study engineering, you're going to need math, physics, and chemistry at CAPE level. You want to study computer science, you're going to need CAPE math. So I just find that there are a lot of students who don't understand for their major what the requirements actually are. And if you don't have the requirements at the CAPE level for universities, it's not going to be, you drastically reduce your chances of admission. And then also, not just that you have the prerequisites, but also that you have the grades. You have the grades. And one thing we love about Canadian universities, they're very upfront about the grades that they expect. They list it right out on the website. I find the Canadian admission process just so it's really important. So I would say if you're looking to maximize your chances, then you want to definitely make sure you have the prerequisites, make sure you have the grades for the school you're applying for. And last but not least, apply as early as possible. Put in the applications as early as possible, because if universities are only getting a certain number of attestation letters, they are going to want to, those might run out. You could easily imagine applying too late and they just don't have any more, not necessarily any more spaces left at their university, but no more spaces left based on the amount of attestation letters they've been allotted. So you definitely want to put in that application early.
Right, and I want to add to what Nicole just said about being punctual and early with your applications. Now, the provinces are responsible for issuing these attestation letters. I can tell you right now that British Columbia is already issuing attestation letters. Can you imagine that? When they have a deadline of March 31, British Columbia is already issuing attestation letters. Alberta is already issuing attestation letters. So already 2 of the provinces have gone ahead and organized themselves, given the allocations to their colleges and universities, and those colleges and universities are already issuing attestation letters. Now, we're still waiting to hear from Ontario because we know that that is a very popular province.
Yasmin, just a question. Are you saying British Columbia is issuing attestation letters for kids who are starting 2024 this year or for next year? Must be for this year?
For this
For
year.
this year. Okay, great.
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Yes. Yeah. So we're still waiting on the other provinces, but they have until next week, as I said, March 31, to make their allocations to their various institutions in their respective provinces. But I don't want you to take that meaning, oh, you have until March 31. As Nicole said, the earlier the better, because when the universities and the colleges are now restricted to a finite number of attestation letters, they are going to be looking for the best students. Nicole, you agree with me? They're looking for the best students with the highest grades, because those are the ones that they want, right? So I want to implore you and encourage you to get your applications in. I have every confidence that our students from Jamaica are more than qualified and tend to be more than qualified. But the fact is, under this new system, we have to remind you that the earlier, the better.
Thank you so much for that, Yasmin. All right, so we have another question that says, will students who have already received acceptances from or acceptance letters from a designated learning institution be prioritized?
If you already have your application in, yes, you will be prior. You will be at the top of the list to be processed. It's those who have received it but have not yet applied. And for those who have applied already, and
Yasmin, do you mean applied for the study permit or applied to the university?
No, apply for the
this
study
one
permit.
Oh, okay. Okay, so once you get the admission letter now, you need to apply for the study permit as soon as possible, is what you're saying.
As soon as possible.
Okay.
And we do have some, because I checked with my IRCC colleagues before this afternoon. And I asked, I said, so what about those who had already applied? And I know, they said, well, those are going to be treated as priority, but we're holding them until they get their attestation letters. So as soon as the provinces start issuing the attestation letters, those students with their applications in will be processed right away.
So what you're saying is, do not wait on the attestation letter.
No,
apply for the study
thing.
permit.
Yeah.
Okay, send in the study. Okay, apply now. Okay, got that.
Yeah.
All right. I remember that you mentioned in your presentation, Ms. Chong, that there were approximately 360,000 permits that are going to be issued. So one question about what portion of that will be allocated, or is it allocated, to country or territory, or is just 360 overall? So you just need to put in your application. Like, is it specific or is just the overall number?
Okay, so the target is 360,000. That 360,000 is not going to be allocated to countries. It's going to be allocated to provinces. The provinces are the one who will then issue those attestation letters. So let us say, for example, Alberta got a quota of 10,000. I'm not saying Alberta got 10,000, I'm just using figures out of the blue. Alberta got 10,000. Alberta then distributes those 10,000 to their various colleges and universities based on student population, acceptance levels, blah, 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 all the various criteria. Then the institution is the one that selects the students and issues those attestation letter along with their approval or admission letters. So it's not based on country. It is the province who will issue the attestation to the institutions, and the institutions will do their usual vetting, etc. Once they agree to accept Nicole McLaren Campbell, Nicole will get the acceptance letter in addition to the attestation letter.
Okay, understand. So would you be able to say how the introduction of the attestation letter impacts students who are applying to multiple universities?
I don't think that's a problem for the student. I think that's a problem for the universities and the colleges.
All right. Right. So, so our next question, someone asked, is there a list of designated universities that can give work permits after undergraduate programs? So is there a list of designated? Yes, is there a list of designated universities that can give work permits after undergraduate programs?
All right, so once a university or the college is a designated learning institution, there is one other step that I encourage students to do all the time. I want you to go on the IRCC site and just type in designated learning institutions. Every designated learning institution in Canada is listed on that site. But not only are the designated learning institutions listed, but every institution listed there, there's another column beside confirmation of their designation. There's another column which tells you whether they are able to issue work permits or not. So I encourage everyone to do that. Visit that page. Do not be caught in what we are now trying to correct. All right? Go on that page, or just go on Google search and say designated learning institutions in Canada. And that list will come up. You can search for it by name or by province. And it will tell you. It will tell you that it is designated and whether or not it can issue postgraduate work permits.
Okay. And someone asked, does students that have a visitor's visa, will it affect getting a study permit, or does this affect the process in any way?
No, not at all. Not at all.
Okay. Someone asked, what is the attestation letter, which is actually a good question.
The attestation letter is really just saying, under the new cap, you have been selected to receive this letter, which tells IRCC that yes, you may be processed for entry into Canada.
Okay.
It's just a way of managing the 360,000.
Okay, I understand. So someone was just asking for clarity. So the timing of the acceptance letter doesn't necessarily matter with respect to the attestation letter. It's the main thing is the time when you are putting your application to the university. Is that what you're saying?
Well, you apply to the university early, and once you get your acceptance, apply for your student visa. normally IRCC asks for 90 days.
Mhm.
So because this is new and because you know what happens most of the time with new programs or new approaches or new processes, people get very nervous. What I want to comfort you though by saying that education and study permits remain a priority for the government of Canada, and so it would for IRCC. I know that, and this is no comfort though, I still want you to apply early. I know that from the months of April right down to September, early September, IRCC gives priority to student visa applications. But I don't want you to take that to mean you can apply in August to go in September.
Right.
I still think you need to observe the 90-day ask. So they ask for 3 months. And I think you should just try as much as possible.
Agreed, Yasmin. Agreed. What's the next question, Janelle?
All right, so our next question is the long one, but so someone says, thank you for taking your time. My question is a bit off topic. I'm Canadian by birth, living in Barbados. My daughter has been accepted to Toronto University and has an attestation letter. I recently applied for her certificate of citizenship, but have not been given a time frame for receiving it. Should we apply for a permit for her? We got the certificate for our son when he was an infant born in Barbados, but my daughter was born in the US and we're hesitant to apply because the US frowns on dual citizenship. They're basically asking, should they go ahead and apply?
All right. So though that parent is a Canadian citizen.
They didn't say.
Well, that's probably the only way they could be applying for citizenship for the kids. Here is my response. If the parent is a Canadian citizen and is going or intends to apply for her daughter's citizenship, which I believe under Canadian law she is entitled to, it doesn't matter which country you apply for, you just need to go to a Canadian embassy or consulate or high commission. If she's in Barbados, the Canadian High Commission is there.
Right. Oh, the parent actually is Canadian. Yeah.
Yeah. So it doesn't matter whether you're in the US, Canada, Barbados, Jamaica, apply for the child citizenship. But I'll tell you this, because she has not been in Canada for a year, she's gonna have to pay international student fees for a year.
All right. So our next question says, is there a website where we can verify which universities or colleges are designated learning institutions? Can we get a link to check where we can check this?
Yes, just go on the IRCC link.
Okay.
Or as I said, just in Google, just type designated learning institutions in Canada. And it will come up.
All right, so someone
And
asked,
you search by provinces or by the name of the institution.
so someone asked, would it increase my odds if I apply to university in a province with a lower population?
No, I'm gonna try, Nicole, I'm gonna try, and Janelle, I'm gonna try and find the allocation, because we did get something to that effect. I'm gonna try and find that, and then maybe you can share it with
That would be fantastic.
yeah.
We'd be happy to do that.
Yeah. I think we even have it by institution as well. So yeah, we should be able to give you that.
Fantastic. Next question, Jan.
All right, somebody asked, does Canada offer scholarships?
Yes, they do, but in a different way. I know many persons are used to the US, where you get direct scholarships in, but in Canada, most, if not all of them, certainly at the undergraduate level, are offered through the universities or colleges. There are different types. Many of the universities and colleges do have what they call an international student scholarship. And I can tell you this, I've met several Jamaicans who have competed at those institutions for these scholarships and have been very successful. So
Absolutely.
my advice to you is whatever or whichever university or college you are applying to, if they have an international student scholarship or scholarships, please do not be shy. Apply. I have met several students, as I said, they've competed. One young lady from Immaculate, she competed for this one international student scholarship, which is a full free ride for 4 years at the university to one international student. She competed with 3,000 students from across the world. And who got it? She did. Right here from Little Jamaica. So do not be shy. Apply.
I completely endorse that. I completely endorse that. I even saw last year where students, we had students getting major merit money from University of Toronto, for example.
Exactly.
And this is not the person. This is outside of the person they've been giving out money. I have noticed in a bit of positive news for international students that Canadian schools have been giving more money. I have noticed that trend.
Yes.
They've been giving more money to internationals. But a lot of the times you have to actually apply for it. So you have to, make sure you know which schools are giving the money, etc., and do that work. Yeah. Next question, Janelle.
Sorry.
Oh, sorry.
And one last thing on that is that, and remember, some universities and colleges offer more than one. So you can apply for several, several different ones, It really can and does make a difference. And remember, you'll still be able to work as an undergraduate student. You will still be able to work. You will still be receiving a work permit. Remember though, for the 20 hours a week on or off campus.
All right. Someone asked if the student became a resident or permanent resident, does this still affect them or would this still affect them?
So let me paint this scenario. I think what they're asking. So you go there as an international student on a student visa, and then you become a resident. What was the question, Janelle?
If the student becomes a permanent resident, how would this affect them?
It won't affect you. You just start paying less fees.
All right. So for our next question, so you mentioned that this was really a question for the universities, but this person wants to know if you've been accepted to multiple universities, receive multiple attestation letters, they're not clear on how this affects the cap.
No, remember the cap is on the institution. So if you apply and the institution offers you an attestation letter, then it offers you an attestation letter. You are under no obligation to take it up. Nothing is going to be different. Let's put it this way. Nothing is going to be different to what you're used to. So you've been used to applying to more than one institution. That will continue. You are used to receiving acceptance letters from more than one institution. That will continue. The only difference is with that acceptance letter, you will receive an attestation letter. So to be very honest, I don't think you should worry about how many attestation letters you will receive. The person that should worry about that is the college or university. Because once that attestation letter is issued to you, the student, and you don't take it up, that's not your problem. That's the college's problem or the university's problem. So don't worry about whether or not. Just do what you normally do. Get your acceptance. It will be accompanied by an attestation letter, and that is for you to decide which institution you prefer.
All right, I think that pretty much answers all the questions that we've gotten so far. Do you have, unless you have anything else to add, Yasmin or Mrs. Campbell, would you like to add anything else?
I see one here about the breakdown for each country. Again, it's not on a country basis. It's on a province basis. So conceivably, Jamaica could not be affected, at least from where I sit and from what I have been seeing. I really don't think that Jamaica, in fact, the Caribbean, will be that much affected by this. Because let me tell you something. So Jamaica alone, in recent years, have been sending, on average, almost 4,000 students out of this island to Canada for tertiary level education.
Wow.
We don't see any major change coming there. We really don't see it. Our students are that good.
Can you comment on the Caribbean in general? I know that we do have some folks on who are coming out of Barbados and the Bahamas, St. Lucia, Trinidad. I don't know. I know you're based in Kingston, so.
Yeah, but I do manage the Bahamas as well. And even there, I mean, a much smaller population, but a consistent and steady number of students going. We have already had some queries from parents there in the Bahamas, and we've tried to allay their fears that nothing will change, right? We don't expect anything to change with regards to the Caribbean and getting students there. Nicole, I don't know if you've noticed, but since January, I myself at the High Commission have received, I think I'm going on to my 20th school this week that is visiting the island because they're that bullish on the Caribbean.
Yes.
So, you know, I really just don't expect much to change. I am just trying to encourage our students here to just do what we need to do, and we need to do it early.
Yes, definitely. Well, Yasmin, I just want to thank you so much for your time this evening. Thank you for coming and allaying our fears and shedding some light on the situation, because, you know, this college admission space just globally has become, you know, so unpredictable and so many different moving parts. And every time you hear an announcement, it's, you know, people tend to panic. And so it's been just really reassuring and so useful to really hear you tell us what is actually happening and to give us advice on how to proceed. I know the parents, students, teachers, counselors who are in this session really have appreciated you this evening. We certainly have here at AIM. So we just want to thank you so much for your time. Thank you for staying, answering all the questions. I want to thank everyone who has joined our Admissions Matters webinar. Thank you so much for being here. We hope that this session has helped to shed some light on what's happening behind the headlines, and there have been many. And so, you know, when you have the information and the knowledge and you know what to do, you can act accordingly. And that is what I feel we have gotten here tonight. So I just want to thank everyone. Thank you, Janelle, for moderating for us and doing such a great job. And thanks again, Yasmin, for being here. This was very, very useful, very helpful. I'm sure everyone would agree that we feel much more we feel certainly clearer and reassured, really. Just know that we need to get those apps in early and get the study permit applications in early as well, and just
Yes.
proceed. So
Yeah.
thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you to Nicole. And just to say, I'm willing to answer any other questions, but just ask that those of you in the audience this evening, if you could just channel them through AIM. It's a lot more efficient for me.
Yes.
If I have just one channel
Right.
that's answering. So thank you
Janelle,
again,
would you like to
Nicole.
share our email address?
Yes, please.
Janelle, you
Yes.
can go ahead and share our email address. And if there are any questions coming out of this session, anything that you need to know about, applying to Canada, or anything, any questions that you have for Yasmin as well, we'd be happy to support you. Email admin@aimonlineacademy.com. That is Janelle's direct email. And we will be so happy to support and to assist you. You're so welcome. I felt very excited to host this session, and we'll be hosting more webinars every single week. Every Wednesday we'll have another one. So we'll let you know next week. I think we're talking about pathways to study medicine and law. And so, we'll send you all the information on that, and we'll continue to provide this free resource for parents, students, counselors, etc., to understand what is really happening in this landscape, because there are so many changes coming at us from all different directions. And it's just good if we, always can have a reliable source of information, and we want to be that for everyone. So thank you again, Yasmin. This has been incredible. And thank you to everybody who has joined, and Janelle has shared all our contact info. So any more questions, anything else you need, please don't hesitate to reach out to us.
Thank you too. Enjoy your evening, and we'll
Take
be in
care,
touch.
everyone.
Okay, bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.